Welcome to Race Walking Extra. I'm here with Ron Wallwork in his home on the kind invitation of Ron and his wife Joan, and in the main we're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of the Lugano Trophy back in Arese in Italy, and it was the last time that Great Britain won the event. So 60 years, it's a golden period for British race walking, but also quite a pivotal year for Ron, because 1963 was the first year that he became an international. So it's a good chance to talk about that. And of course, it's poignantly that Ron is the remaining member of the British team. So it's good to get all those facts down as much as Ron can remember and what we've got documented. But also, we're going to touch on many other aspects of race walking. We've been going 10 to the dozen, chatting away off camera. So we're going to be talking about lots of other things as well. So, Ron.
Fire away, Len.
Before we really get going, I've got the diary room quiz for you.
I can hardly wait.
Now, there's 5 questions. I'm going to ask you 3 questions out of the 5. So you choose which number.
Well, always start at the beginning, number 1.
Number 1, okay. So this is, the category is on tour. What did you miss most whilst on international duty?
Bacon.
Bacon.
Egg and bacon.
Right.
The Continental's idea of egg and bacon was a boiled egg and a slice of ham, which is rather far removed from the crispy stuff that we normally eat. But yeah, so that's what I...
Okay, great. Another number?
5.
5. All right, take it as it comes. This is pot luck, actually, this one.
Right.
Who would you like or would have liked to meet?
This is the whole field, not just race.
Yeah, all everything.
Oh, that's a real difficult one.
Well,
because most of my idols I met anyway.
oh, that's interesting.
So
Yeah.
I find it impossible to answer.
Well, out of the ones that you met then?
Well, I've met several Olympic walk champions, Harold Whitlock. One high moment for me was the 77 World Cup in Milton Keynes, and as part of the Russian delegation was Vladimir Golubitsky,
Yeah, that's right.
who won medals over 4 Olympics, and he came across the road. He recognised me from across the road and came across and shook my hand, and we had not a chat, but an understanding. And I felt that this great walker actually knew me was a tremendous...
Yeah, that's great, yeah. Good to hear that, Ron. And one more.
1 more.
1 to 5.
Go for 3.
3. Well, it's about teammates, either domestic or international. Who was the joker in the pack?
Well, it's a toss-up between Ray Middleton and Charlie Ford, who used to bounce stuff off each other so effortlessly. Ray was slightly deaf, so we had this thing where somebody would say something, Charlie, looking after Ray, would repeat the question in a loud voice, and it was almost like the 2 runners at times.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. As you can see, I've got plenty of notes, but not necessarily in the right order. Okay, Ron, so tell us a bit about your early athletic career.
Well, I think it's fairly well documented that as a child I was a fatty. My nickname, the name that they gave me at school, was Billy Bunter.
Yeah.
Modern day youngsters might not know about Billy Bunter, but my generation, because he was a...
Well, yeah, me too.
Yeah. And sports, I was always the last to be picked for anything. In the schoolyard games or whatever, I was always last to be picked. And at secondary school, Castle Secondary Modern School, which had boasted pupils like Tommy Lawton, famous centre forward, Nat Lofthouse, local hero, cup winner in '58, Roy Tattersall, off spinner for England at cricket. I wasn't really interested, I didn't know anything about it in those days, but on sports day, because I was a big lad, I was sent to the shot put circle to do the shots. So I won the school shot, went on to the town sports and tried the discus as well. I don't think I won, but I did fairly well, and somebody approached me from Bolton Harriers. So I went down there as a shot putter and discus thrower, and the dynamo of the club was a guy called Frank Morris, who had a small engineering firm, and he more or less ran Bolton Harriers. He was a real dynamo of a person, kept it going. And Bolton Harriers in those days was quite a top club. Fred Norris ran in 2 Olympic marathons. Chris Googe ran in the 400 metre hurdles in the Rome Olympics in 1960. And of course the most famous one of all was Ron Hill, whose original club was Clayton Lemores, but he joined Bolton because Bolton had quite a decent distance running team, a guy called Jack Haslam, who won the inter-counties, and Ron won the inter-counties. And in fact, on one of the years, Ron won the inter-counties 20 miles, and I won the inter-counties 7-mile walk on the track.
Oh, right.
So it was a big news in the local paper that Bolton had got this double at the White City.
So when was that? What year was that?
That would be 67. But I joined Bolton Harriers in 59.
Yeah.
But going back to Frank Morris, he'd also been a walker in his days, and I didn't know that at the time. So I went down there religiously for quite a while, and then there was a young woman who was practising race walking, and the ladies coach, Alec Mason, was looking for volunteers to jog round with her to pace her, because she was after a time standard for the then women's walking was organised by the Women's Cross Country and Road Walking Association. So I started jogging round with her, and she was walking, and then I tried doing a bit of walking, and I could stay with her for best part of a lap. Anyway, it became a regular thing over the next few weeks, and in the end I could walk the whole trip. And I remember my time was 9 something, and the 3A's third standard at that time was 10 minutes.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I thought, something you'd be good at. Cause
so what year was that then?
That would be 57, the summer of 57, and I made my debut race walking in May 1958, which was a 10 miles at Macclesfield. That was a game changer, really. I mean, I was just short of my 17th birthday. It was the toughest course, Cheshire there, but I didn't know how to train. I'd just gone out and walked. So I'd read in somewhere the shortest Olympic distance was 20k, so I'd walk 12.5 miles whenever I could. And early experiences were quite painful because I hadn't got the sense to grease up or anything. So, complete novice. Anyway, I got to Macclesfield and I won the novice prize.
Was that, what, 20k?
No, it was a short 10.
Oh, all right.
Seen as a short 10. It went out on a dog leg, out into the country to a reservoir, came back through the village, a village called Sutton, just on the edge of Macclesfield, and then down into Macclesfield and back along the Congleton Road. Well, God, was it a surprise. Talk about bats out of hell when we set off. Eyeballs out from the word go. And of course, coming back on the dog leg, Lol Allen, GB, his Olympic vest on, Joe Barclay, one of the finest walkers never to get a vest, and KJ Matthews. I mean, they were already way in front of me, and that really inspired me. And again, one of the things I remember about that is I think that these top men graced this fairly local event and sat changing next to, 2 pegs away from me, this Olympian, they were gods to me. So, that was how I got into walking.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I had a similar experience. I joined my local athletic club, Ilford AC, as a schoolboy and wanted to train for the miles. But during that summer, I came across the band of Ilford race walkers, and the camaraderie amongst them all was just absolutely great. And I found that as an attraction. And there was this thing called the Highgate Hour.
I remember it.
Yeah, very historic set of hour races, A, B, C, D categories.
Plus a schoolboy race and a blind a visual, nowadays it would be called a visually impaired race.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so that was something that sort of, yeah, come on, you ought to do that. Going in the D section. Okay, right, I need to train for this. So I went down the track, I think it was on a Wednesday night, a non-club night. Thought I'd gonna just try it out myself. And I'd done a couple of laps. And lo and behold, Roger Mills turned up. He was finished a session on the road. You know, he was the up-and-coming young star of British racewalking, and of course, oh look, there's Roger Mills.
So what year are we talking about, Ken?
This was 1969.
Right.
It wasn't quite an international, but it became an international afterwards. But you know, he was very well spoken of amongst our club circles. Oh, it was Roger Mills, and but the amazing thing was Roger, the budding superstar, immediately saw me and came over and started coaching me.
Yeah.
And whenever I meet up with Roger now, he's still coaching me.
No, that's Roger, isn't it?
That's Roger, yeah.
I once did a training session with Roger. I think I was on the downward path and he was so...
Don't make excuses.
And he was on the upward path. And we did this session, and Roger could never do an easy session. It wasn't in his thing. And he chunted on about all kinds of things, and he said, I said, how long have we been going? He said, oh, I don't wear a watch. He said, I don't need a watch to tell me how fast I'm walking. If it's not hurting, I'm not walking fast enough. So,
yeah. Very inspirational, not only at that time, but many training sessions over the years. So,
and of course, you went on to win European
bronze,
in
Rome. Yeah. Okay. So, what was the first time that you realised that you could make international status?
Well, I made a concerted effort in the winter of 62-63. In the first year I walked, I finished fourth in the junior 5. The second year I walked, I was third in the 3A's junior 1 mile, and I think I was third in the junior 5 mile road. In 60 I won the mile track and the mile road, and I also did Nijmegen marches that year. I don't know what prompted me to do Nijmegen marches, but from a junior doing sort of 1 mile tracks and stuff to do Nijmegen, which was 55k a day for 4 days.
Amazing.
And anyway, it didn't do me any harm.
Just butting in there, Ron. I've seen the photograph of you with the RWA team.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that might have been part of the appeal to get that RWA badge with the Union Jack on it. That was in 60.
1960, right?
I won in 60, I would be 19. And it's a memorable day, that the junior mile, because I won the mile in the afternoon. On that same evening, Colin Young met up with me because he wanted to do an interview and took me to Victoria Park, where the second Olympic trial was taking place, the Rome 20k. Stan and Ken were absolutely flying. Well, that's the wrong term to use in racing.
Yeah.
But they weren't half steaming along. I think Ken did 88, which in those days was quite phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I'd had an evening with, the greatest knowledge on race walking ever, Colin. So that was quite memorable. And then within the following day, I set off with all the Nijmegen walkers, and most of them were quite well on in years. And some of them have been quite famous distance walkers in the day.
Just to interrupt there, going Ron. So from doing junior level races, mile races and so on, then suddenly you're going to Nijmegen and doing 55 kilometres each day.
Yeah, when I was 19, yeah.
So was that a big step for you to do that?
Well, a club mate of mine, Chris Bolton, who's still doing Nijmegen marches, he's older than I am, well into his 80s. Chris had already done it, sung the praises of the event. I mean, there were 40-odd thousand then took part. And my memories of it are, whatever distance you're doing, you've got between 4 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon to do it. We were in this B&B. First time I'd ever come across yoghurt, which wasn't flavoured, and I couldn't get over this at all. And then we're back to the
the
boiled eggs and slices of ham.
Yeah, eggs and bacon.
So I thought we'll get up really early and we'll get on that road before everybody else. Well, we were up early, 3:30, something like that, out on the road. You just couldn't see the road. It was just a sea of people already out there. Well, say 45,000. And it was a great experience. And I went again the following year because the Lancashire Walker Club had a club team in the following year. Turning towards gradually up my training. My first thing was to win a Northern title. My first attempt, 1959, I won the Northern Junior 10, which was equivalent to the Garnet. It wasn't a junior race, it was a qualification thing.
Yeah.
And I won it pretty comfortably. And then a month later, I turned up for the Northern Senior Championship proper, and I was almost fully changed when Jim Hackwood and John Burns, both outstanding officials in the race walking world, John Burns in particular later on, used to produce some magnificent programmes, but that's by the by. Oh no, it wasn't the Sheffield guy, it was Al Scorer, who'd been a notable luminary in race walking circles. They came to me, sorry, you can't race today, you're not old enough. You had to be, it must have been 18, that's right, 59. I'd have been 18 a couple of months later, so this is March time. So, sorry, we can't let you walk, there's been a complaint, we're sorry to do this, but if somebody makes a complaint, we have to, in other words, if nobody had brought it up, they'd have turned a blind eye. That's what they said. Anyway, John Burns, who issued the bad news to me that day, in later years, more than made up for what he had to do there, because he's the guy that organised my successful 2-hour record attempt in 1971. So, you know, that time span, it's just when these things come round and people recirculate. So I couldn't do
not even as a guest.
Not as a guest or anything, didn't allow it. So the following year, 1960, Northern 10, I must try and win the Northern 10. Couldn't do it. I got third. 62 I got third. And I said, I'm not going to shave until I've won a Northern title.
Anyway, is this one with the beard then? No, it's not only joking.
No, there is one with a beard. And so I said, I'm not going to shave until I win the Northern. So this was March 62, I think. March 63, I actually won. Much to Joan's relief. It was at RAF Lindholm, and my serious northern rival at that time for a couple of seasons was a guy called Jim Stancer, who knew no other way to race except to be flat out all the time. From 62, I more or less, I think, without being boastful, dominated the northern scene for several years. But following on from winning the Northern, Lancashire Walking Club were staging the National 10 at Bellevue, Manchester, and I think I finished 5th in the National 10. Ken won it, and then I realised I couldn't make it at 20, so I would go at 50, because I was doing quite a lot of mileage. This was following that really harsh winter, 63.
63.
Yeah,
I remember.
But my dad was a railway worker. I was working by this time, 2 mornings a week. I used to go out to walk for at least an hour before I went to work. And of course it was dark, but I lived in Bolton, so everything was well lit. You could go out and train in the dark. Yeah. And I used to get up, and on the 2 mornings I got up to do this training, I tried to have the fire lit for when my dad came in off nights, because he'd be absolutely frozen. One day he got home before me and the fire was lit, and I never forget, he said to me, "Hey lad, go back in bed, it'll do thee more good." And that stuck me. So, but I didn't go back to bed. I went out and I got the rewards the following year. So after the Northern 10, the National 10, I realised that I wasn't going to make it at 20k if I was going to make it. The thing about Lugano was it was a 3-man team.
So it's just stepping back then, so it was when you achieved your first Northern Championship?
That was the year,
So what year?
Well, this is 63. And
so come back to the
Yeah.
question about when did you feel that you would make international status
after I finished the national 10, I think,
in?
at Manchester in 63, I won the Northern and I reproduced that form in the national.
Yeah.
And then I realised, no disrespect to Charlie, but I felt that I could scrape in at 50k. I'd been doing a lot of mileage, but it wasn't a foregone conclusion. But I thought, if there's a chance of making the team, that would be it. So I did the national 20 miles, and I finished 4th or 5th there as well. But again, I was just off the pace. And bearing in mind, we're talking about Don. I think Don won his how many consecutive 20 miles. I was in the top 5 at 20 miles. So I thought, well, doing the mileage, have a go at 50k and see how it goes. That was at Baddesley Colliery in the Midlands. It was mixed feelings. I got at halfway, I moved into 3rd place, and I thought, this is it. But of course, the thing about halfway,
Yeah.
you're still 15 miles to go. And the guy that chased me home died recently. That was Ken Mason from Surrey Walking Club.
Yes.
He chased me home. But I did 4:28 dead, and that got me 5th place. So that's how good the standard was.
Yep.
And to be honest, my feet were badly blistered because we wore the old black leather shoes with leather soles. My feet were badly.
Were they Laws or Whitlocks?
I can't remember at the time. They might have been Foster's actually. Foster's sons, who couldn't get on with the father, set up Reebok, and they sold out to the other firm. And I worked for Reebok when they was under the Foster brothers thing.
Okay.
Yeah, lost my train there.
Yeah, there you are, 5th place, 4:28.
4:28. More than happy that I hadn't made the team. I was in such a state. The thought of doing another one of those just wasn't in me reckoning for the future at all.
Don't tell anybody else.
And then of course within 2 or 3 days when you're moving about a bit, you think, oh well, I could have just done a bit better, but the ecstasy of getting into 3rd place, thinking I've made it, and then slowly drifting back.
Yeah.
Anyway, when it came to selections, Paul was going for 20k, which moved me up to 4th in the 50. And Don went down with some mystery illness. He was hiking in the lakes and was out of action for 12 months. So that got me in the team. But Don was such a great competitor, or perhaps I wasn't such as a great competitor, but a year later he'd recovered and he finished 3rd in the Olympic trial where I finished 4th. So I never made the Olympics in the end.
Yes,
There was always something that cropped up in Olympic year, or I just didn't have the application for it. So I'd made the team.
Great. Well, so on your previous interview that you did a couple of years ago, you spoke about the training mileage. Just for the benefit of us all really, because we're talking about pre-professional days, you had a full-time job as well. So can you tell us what the average routine was during the week, and what was the total mileage that you was doing?
I think in the early years it was sort of 15 to 25. Bear in mind that from 56 to early 60s I was an apprentice, which meant 3 nights a week night schools. So time was pretty restricted. But as time went on, Lancashire Walking Club being a fairly strong distance club, they believed in what we used to call strolling, where you go out on Sunday and just walk about for several hours. So I remember I did a lot of that in preparation for the 50k in 63. So I would 60 to 70 miles a week, I would think.
Right.
And as we got towards the end of the 60s, I was doing 100 miles a week, 2 gym sessions, included running in my regime. And I mean, I think a lot, talking to training with Ollie Flynn some years ago, was somebody had asked us to compare today with what we was doing, and Ollie summed it up really. He said, I think we did everything they do today, except we didn't have a name for it. you know.
Yeah.
So nowadays you've got coaching manuals with BMAX and God knows what. Whereas in our day, you go back to what Roger said.
Yeah.
I don't need a watch to have a.
Yeah.
If I'm breathing heavy and my heart's racing, I know I'm working hard. Towards the end, and you know, looking back, the big difference is the top people today are pros.
Yeah.
Which means they can get the thing that's vital to all training, and that is rest and recovery.
Yes, that's right.
In our day, because I was doing a 44 hour a week, you didn't have time to rest, and especially if you're in a job where you're on your feet all day. I think I've told you before, the days I used to do an hour before breakfast, I ran for half an hour in my lunchtime, and then I walked at least another hour in the evening.
Yeah.
And it was Tuesday, Thursday, because my night school was Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
We didn't rest. And when I look at what was possibly my best 2 years, which was 70, 71, I finished in the 8 road championships in 1970 and 71. I was in the top 3 in 7 of them, and 4th in the other. So I was ranging from 10 to 50k. The collapse in the Europeans in Helsinki in 71, you look at my diaries and it's not surprising. Not only the racing, it's the travelling. I think we'd done, it was a phenomenal, I was doing 100 miles a week, gym sessions, travelling to races and racing. And it we just didn't have time to rest. If you got spare time, you used it to get more miles in, because that was the perceived wisdom at the time.
Plus your full-time job, as you say.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
We mentioned about the training mileage there, so thanks very much for that. Off camera we were talking about diet, so you were saying there was, I'm asking you about adjustments to diet during that time, and
well, there wasn't an adjustment. I mean, it's hard to think now, but in those days you had whatever was going, and special diets just weren't part of the thing. I mean, one person who I recall was very keen on diet was Peter Fullager, who was a Percy Cerruti follower in many ways, and you know, there was a great emphasis placed on diet, and people used to joke about, you know, living on nuts and berries. But for me personally, it was a case of eating when I was hungry and eating what was available.
Yeah. And of course, with all things being equal, with a full-time job as well, how did it affect your social life?
Well, the social life was meeting up with Lancashire Walking Club and other walkers virtually weekly if we didn't have a race. Some other work I've been doing recently, looking at Lancashire Walking Club history, and some months we'd race every week. Well, the weeks we weren't racing, we'd do a training session, so that was the social life really. On the training sessions, normally from someone's home, someone's house, you let your hair down in the evening, and that was the social life really.
So how did you ever manage to get together with Joan?
A friend of mine who I discovered in the shot putting circle, not at school but at Bolton Harriers, Gordon Keir, God rest his soul. His girlfriend, Anthea, was friends with Joan, and Joan followed Anthea, or went with Anthea down to the track to meet up with Gordon, because we used to train Tuesday, Thursday nights. And we saw each other once or twice during the summer of 60, and I was fairly religious then, and I was circuit youth.
Oh, you met at the Methodist youth group?
Yeah, they were organising a trip to Blackpool Illuminations, and Joan was already sort of going out with another lad. Anyway, he didn't want to go to the Illuminations, so Anthea persuaded to go because she was pretty sure I'd keep her company.
Oh, right, there you go.
Which I did.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
I can't remember whether that was the week after I'd won the Junior 5 or the week before. But that's how we met, and our coaching was, I suppose, a bit weird in some respects because we'd only got limited time.
Well, that's why I asked the question.
If Auntie and Joan met myself and Gord at the track after training, we'd walk part of the way home, and then they would catch the number 10 bus to Astley Bridge. And quite often, where Joan lived, she was about a 3-minute drive by bus from the terminus. So I would drop her off as the bus went up to the terminus, have a quick cuddle, and then the bus would be coming back, and that was the last bus, 20 past 11. Remember it well. So yeah, Joan's family, her mother in particular, took to me because Joan's mother was something of a sportswoman, one of a family of 11, and living opposite Tom Cricket Club, the Rogerson family used to have a cricket match with Tom Cricket Club once a year. And Joan's mum lost her front teeth because she was wicket keeper. So, and Joan's mum had also been a Bolton Wanderers season ticket holder, as indeed were most of the Rogerson family. So sport was in Joan's mum, and she followed me all over the country. And I suppose Hetty was the North's answer to Jean Middleton. Yeah. When it came to cheering and encouraging walking.
Yeah, because Jean was, come on the bells!
Yeah.
Belgrave Harriers for Ray. And you told me.
Hetty's cry was up the north. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah, good memories.
Yeah, good memories. Yeah. And it's part of the thing that there was a social life with it, much more than there is today.
But I think you said before about people travelling by car today, whereas clubs used to hire a coach or something, and people travelled together, and that was always a good thing about it. And talking to some people, they remember the trips more than the race. Yeah. Because of the company they kept.
And when you think about the special trains put on from Euston to Sheffield, from London to the Midlands.
Okay, now we're coming on to Lugano. So we touched on the Lugano semi-final, which you said that you had a sort of disastrous race.
Yeah, it wasn't such a good race. I did 4:48, which was...
And that was your first international then?
Yeah, and that was 20 minutes slower than I'd done at Baddesley. We qualified, and we won actually because of of Ken, Paul and Ray. They were the main players. For the final, Vaughan Thomas was replaced by John Edgington. After the qualifier, Harold Whitlock wrote me a very nice letter encouraging me not to be too disheartened at my performance. He knew I was disappointed, but it was all adding to experience. Yeah. So for the final, they replaced Vaughan Thomas with John Edgington, who later went on to walk in the Tokyo Games of '64. And the final itself, really, again, led by Paul doing a 1-2 in the 20k, and Ray finishing runner-up in the 50k. We secured our place. I had a much better race. I did 4:23 for something like 5th position, I think.
A report on the second Lugano Trophy win for Great Britain. Yeah. Colin Young's report appeared in the Athletics Weekly, and the event took place on October the 12th and 13th at Varese near Milan, and a guy called Havasi won the 4:14. Ray was second, 4:17, and a certain Wallwork was 4:23.
Yeah,
in 5th place.
Yeah.
Actually, it's quite interesting. Colin finishes off his report by saying, taking into account the excellent results from a British viewpoint, the selectors can be pleased with their choice for this most important event on the international walking calendar. Hear, hear. Now for Tokyo, and great hopes of a gold for Ken and medals for Ray and Paul.
as I said before, just getting to an Olympics is an achievement in itself.
It's great, isn't it, when we look back and you got the sense of the time through these type of...
yeah, I mean, with Paul's 20k speed, it was always going to be a good 50k walk.
Yeah, in the 20k, it was Ken Matthews first in 1:30.10, Paul Niles second, 1:33.18. Yeah, and again, the Hungarians did well, didn't they? Because they got Antal Kiss, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1:33.37. So, whatever happened to the Hungarians? Because when I got into race walking, I wouldn't say the Hungarians were a notable country.
Well, Hungary suffered a lot from Soviet oppression, didn't they? I mean, when we were in Hungary for the European Games, Budapest, in '66, and you could still see that it was a drab place. I always think of it in terms of black and white pictures, never colour pictures.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
And it's, you know, there were still pot marks on the walls of the buildings where the bombs had been when the Russians moved in. And it was only, 10 years after the uprising and all the trouble at the Melbourne Olympics where the water polo teams laid into each other. And one to another, and I just think that must have affected. But these things go in phases, don't they?
They certainly do. From your point of view, Ron, how did it progress the race for you? Was you with a leading group and then fell away, or did you come through the field?
To be honest, Len, I can't remember all about it. What I do remember, I have a picture somewhere of Colin Young encouraging me on round about 45k and being stalked by a huge German called Muller. In the end, Muller got the chop, which left me clear. I think I was very much on my own for the second half of the race.
Yeah, you was much of Czechoslovakia. You was 4:23.11. You was 4:23.46. So
yeah.
Could you see him?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Ladislav Mott was that he was an international name I knew. I remember thinking to get so close to this guy who was known internationally was quite an achievement.
Yeah.
But I was hanging on, so it was that phase of the race where a 100-yard gap is a big gap.
Yeah.
It's not today because they seem to skip along and close the gaps. But in our day, once you were so far in front of somebody, you knew they had to pull out something really outstanding, or you'd have to pull out something really outstanding to catch you, because you just run out of road.
Yeah, it's funny with racing, whether it's walking or running. Obviously, it's sort of that elastic band type effect. That once you go so far, the breaks, and then you lose them. And not forgetting Charlie Fogg. He was in 6th place.
Yeah, and
nearly 7 minutes behind.
Yeah. I mean, the most memorable thing about both those trips for me was the fact that they looked after me.
Being senior athletes.
And again, that was good. I can't remember whether I stayed at Charlie's or I stayed at Ray's that time. But both of them put me up more than once. We had Howard Whitlock who accompanied the team. Wasn't team manager, but accompanied the team because invariably he was down on the judging panel.
Yeah, great influence on race walking, wasn't he?
I mean, Ray went on to compete in the Lugano Cup as late as 74.
73.
Well, right,
yeah,
73.
that's where Lugano, when I went with the group as spectators. And you mentioned about Ray being a great joker. I mean, after the race, we all got together, met up with the British team, and Ray was the group comedian. He orchestrated the fun that night, and bearing in mind we had the relay the following morning.
Well, what's that got to do with
it? Yeah, good old Ray.
But say that trip, bearing in mind all these top people that's in that photograph that I gave you, or the lakeside one.
Yeah, just go through those names then, left to right.
Left to right, we've got Paul Niles, who went on to win Olympic silver, European gold and European bronze. Charlie Fogg and myself.
Yeah.
So Timber Woodcock from Surrey Walking Club, who's team manager. Still standing, Ray Middleton. The head you can see between to Ray's right is Stan Vickers, Olympic bronze, European gold. And you've got John Edgington, Colin Young, Harold Whitlock, Olympic gold, European gold. And then on the front row you've got, with the trophy, Ken Matthews, Olympic gold, European gold, and Lugano Cup winner twice. So that's a medal lineup, that.
What a golden lineup.
Well, that's right, yeah. I mean,
as you say, winning the Lugano Trophy as well.
Two Olympic champions, 1, 2, 3, 4 Olympic medalists, 3 European champions. I mean, it is an embracing. Now you've got 1936 Olympic gold to 64 Olympic gold. Almost 3 decades of successful international walkers. Now there might be those who say it's a lot tougher today, but you can't compare one generation with another.
No.
And they were outstanding in theirs.
Mm. Yeah. And of course Don Thompson didn't make the trip.
Didn't make the trip on that occasion, no.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing. Let's talk about the relay. It was a week after the actual Lugano Trophy final. Yeah. And you've told me before that actually you would have liked to have gone home rather than hang around for a week.
Yeah, yes. In those days, you very rarely travel with any of your members of your family.
Yeah.
And it's always a shame because nobody makes the top without the support and backup of the family. And say in those days, they were never there to share the satisfaction with you. So I'd been quite happy to fly home after the final. But having said that, the relay experience is one to remember. I was on the first leg.
Yeah.
We drove up into the mountains. I don't know what altitude we were, but we were quite high up. And we were awake 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And as you stepped outside, it was still light. The snow-capped peaks round about with this lovely blue, cloudless sky. It was quite magical. So the magic disappeared once we got started because my leg was 25k, 15 miles and a bit, and it was all downhill. Well, it was something different. But the route down round these mountain passes and through tunnels hewn out of the rocks, fast flowing streams and rivers, it was awesome, to use a modern day term. And then of course, once we got down to sea level, so to speak, I handed over to Paul, and I think I was third on the takeover, and Paul on his leg, which I think was 20k, or thereabouts, and he absolutely hammered the opposition and gave us a healthy lead after the second leg.
So you was third, Ron, in 2:16.53, not too far behind. Soderlin had won it in 2:16.07, and Halbeth of Germany was 2:16.18. So it was all pretty close. Lindbergh, local guy, was fourth, 2:22. So you three were away. Yeah. So was you by yourself all the time? Or?
Well, there was never a lot separating us. It was, I think people were quite happy to stay together in the early stages and just strung out a little bit towards the end.
Yeah. Any difficulty of going downhill all the time?
Yeah.
So it's as you say, you hand it over to Paul, and Paul indeed did smash it at 2:17.11. That's 30k. Pettersson of Sweden was second in 2:23. So quite a gap.
Yeah.
So that put you in a commanding position. Handed over to Ray on the third leg, 14k. So it's the Bellinzona Chenery leg.
Well, Ray was a top 50k man, so we thought the mountain
would suit him
because it's virtually 10k uphill, I think.
Yeah. So Syverson of Sweden won in 1:12.53. Ray got 1:13.21, so not far behind. And Bruning of Germany won 1843. So again, there's a big gap there. Handed over to Charlie Fogg. So that was the
hard man Charlie.
Yeah, January Lugano leg, 17k. Second place, 135.48 behind Soderlund of Sweden. So he did 134, so not too much of a gap. So when you finished your leg then, did you get in a car and follow the other guys, or did you just get a shower and...
Well, there's no chance to have a shower. Once you've done your leg, you're in your sweaty gear, and obviously tracksuit to put on and stuff. I can't remember the transport, but I think each team had its own car, and we, with a local driver, well, you just handed over the baton, had a chance for a drink, perhaps a towel down.
Yeah.
But you were soon on your way again, because Paul needed looking after for his 30k stretch, because the sun was coming out by now, and it was heating up quite considerably.
Yeah. Yeah, because these are actual times. They don't show the progress of the actual gaps in the relay itself.
No.
Yeah.
That Paul was outstanding.
Back to Charlie then, coming into Lugano, 17k, handed over to Colin Young. So here we go. He did the last leg of 26k to Chiasso, which is the leg that I did on one occasion in 73. So he got third there in 2:12.03. Back of Sweden, 2:3.56. Then Nemmerich of Germany, 2:10. Yeah, there's a big gap to Peretti in 2:21. So the final result of the relay was Sweden in 9:31.07 and Britain 9 hours 34.42. Quite a gap to Germany, 9:47.31.
Yeah.
So
there were only two teams in it, really.
Quite an event.
It was quite an event. I mean, I suffered for at least a week after the 15-mile downhill at pace, bearing in mind the shoes we wore in those days, leather soles and whatever. I could hardly walk for a week. Everything was aching, and my leg lasted how long? 2 hours something, and the effects of it lasted about a fortnight. Yeah. So
did you ever do it again?
I never did it again. No. It was a one-off, and as I say, if I hadn't been in the team for the Lugano Cup, then I wouldn't have done. It was very much Southern clubs and associations used to do it, because the police did it, didn't they?
Well, Stock Exchange
did it. I've heard some wonderful tales about travelling across Europe in a Bedford minibus and God knows what.
It's coming back to people remember the trip more than the race.
That's right, and it's a fair drive from London to northern Italy.
Indeed.
Because the race started in Switzerland.
Yeah, okay, Ron, just to carry on then, your career CV, how many years were you active as a race walker?
My first race was 1958, and my international career started in 1963, finished in 74. I think that was my span of, if you like, serious walking. After that I appreciate I was over the hill, I had other things to pursue. I dropped out from the scene in and out for 10 years or so, into the 80s. I got the job in Newmarket started there in 75. And because I could only get time off in the week, I raced as an Essex police cadet because they raced on Wednesdays. And I could get Wednesdays off. Sort of dabbled with Anglia Striders, trying to...
Yes, I remember those days,
Trying to create, interest a bit wider than around the London area, trying to broaden it out. And we had some good names in that. We had odd races in Moulton in the 80s, so I became more of a promoter.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in the last 20 years, with help, I've laid on 300s at Newmarket. and the Captain Barclay reenactment over
Yes,
6
that
weeks.
was quite amazing.
So
Yeah.
my actual competitive career, I would say, would be 59 to 74, and then after that, the rest of my life took over.
Mm.
Yeah, well, you know
Yeah.
when you're coming to an end, because
Yeah.
doing 100 miles a week and 2 gym sessions,
Yeah.
you just don't want to be doing it.
No, there's other things to be getting on with.
Yeah, yeah.
You documented about your move to Newmarket with the change of direction in your career, which been a tremendous chapter in your life.
Certainly has.
Great to note that you've laid it out elsewhere, so that's great. So, can you recall how many internationals that you've done? Aha. So we've got a book here.
Peter Matthews and
John Powell
have it all in here. I can tell you, I think he's got me down for 16 internationals. Here we are. Paul Nile won 27 national championships and was placed in the first 3 in 35 others. Ron Wallwork comes in here somewhere. This is in national championships. Had 4 national championships and 19 other times I finished in the top 3. And then on the Great British Internationals, just for comparison, Paul Nile, he raced 1963 to 76, Olympic Games 4 times, European Games twice. Wallwork, wherever he is, anywhere, Wallwork. It says here I had 10 internationals, 63 to 71. I had 2 European Games, 2 Commonwealth Games. But I think I had more internationals than that. I know that I raced in East Germany in 74 because John Northcott was team manager. So it was a span of internationally was a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay then, Ron, just PBs then. Can you remember the gallery of PBs?
2 miles was 13:35, and I set that as my last race in England before I went to Kingston 66. And I think that just set me up for Kingston because at sub 7-minute miles, which was going in those, it's nothing today, but in those days it was going some. And the conditions in Kingston meant we were walking at 8 minutes plus a mile. So after that, it set me up quite nicely. My best 10k was 43:57. That was behind Phil Embleton when he won the Inter-Counties, which was held at Leicester in 1971, I think. My best 50k would be 4:21 something, set at Basildon.
Oh, the famous Basildon course.
Yeah. Best 20 miles was 2:35, I think, in the National at Sheffield in that 1970-71 period. 100 miles in 22:26.
Not to be sneezed at, of course. No, that's right.
That's from memory.
You've documented one of the events that you felt most proud about, beating the 2-hour record.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite a day. That was in 71, was it?
That was 71,
Yeah.
and it was special to me because Ken Matthews had been my idol, really.
Yeah.
And the only reason Ken didn't have that record was because he raced the 2 hours. He went all out for the 20k record. And in those days, if you didn't finish the race, the record wouldn't have counted.
Yeah. Mm.
So he had to finish the race and slowed drastically.
Mm.
There's a good, well, I think it's a good write-up by Tony Taylor in Race Walking Record of that race, whenever it was. And so, yeah, so that was special. Just a pity that I'd probably spent myself by that stage because the Europeans came shortly after that and I was peeled off the road at 43k.
Something to stay with you, and of course we're not overlooking the fact of your Commonwealth gold.
No, well again, I was in the right place at the right time. What can I say? I'd got the speed. I was arguably that time the fastest man in the country over 2 miles. So to be walking at 8:20s or 8:30s really was. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was in the 80s by 7. It was an out and back down the hill to the course road in Kingston, then out to Palisadoes Airport. Turning round at the airport was a halfway point. Good coverage, spectator support, especially when we came to the outskirts of Kingston to climb back up to the Arthur Winch Stadium.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of them hadn't a clue what we were doing.
Well,
or were wondering what they were doing. There's some great newspaper pictures of that final mile or so up the hill. Again, I took a gamble at 15 miles because you could only feed every 5 miles. I took a gamble at 15 to thought, well, because I was leading. I thought if they're sitting on me, I've got to demonstrate that even though they're sitting on me, I'm in charge. So I didn't take a drink, and everybody else took a drink, which slowed them down somewhat. And I opened a gap in that time. I didn't increase my pace that I can remember. I just kept going, and I think that psychological blow.
Yes, that elastic band.
That psychological blow that God, he must be feeling good if he's not gasping for a drink here. Of course, I always say, if it hadn't have come off, I'd have been the biggest idiot for not taking a drink. Well, so you get it as you take it as you find it.
So you picked Ray.
Yeah, I can't remember.
When I say picked, you beat Ray.
It was inside, but I say when you get to the end of these long races, well, certainly in my day, you were hanging on, and whereas these days, with being full-time athletes, they cruise at a phenomenal speed and find extra towards the end.
So, many congratulations shared between you and Ray.
Well, we roomed together, and I mean, fond memories of Kingston. We were out there 3.5 weeks. It was hot, and the day started cool. The humidity built up through the day, and by the evening it was almost unbearable. And you see storms in the mountains, lightning flashes on the horizon and stuff. It's so humid. There were pretty basic conditions. There were ants running. There was an ant run up the wall near my bed. I remember that. In the next door to us, I think, was Don. I don't know who Don was with. It might have been Precious Mackenzie.
Oh yeah, the little boxer. Yeah. Weightlifter. Sorry.
And then at the far end there was, would it be Brian Kilby and Dick and the Midland. No, I think it was Kilby. I'm not sure his name was Brian or not. Kilby had won several marathons. He was a lad from the Midlands. Sometimes see him when we go to Molly Barnett. He's a different shape now than he was then. But the marathoners, and when they saw us doing loosening up exercises, they sort of, why are you doing that? And we said, well, because we've got to walk with a certain technique, and we need the thing to do it.
Distractions. And
the other thing I remember is the amazing Don Thompson. We go training early in the morning while it was cool, mostly just long spins. Don could fall out of bed and automatically start walking at 7 miles. Automatically start walking at 7 miles an hour. He was absolutely amazing. And again, a great champion, but like Ken, unassuming, modest, approachable. Yeah. It was a great time. Yeah, of course, the other thing, difference between then and today, can't help but make the comparison, is that unfortunately very few of us could afford to have any of our family with us who made it all possible, whereas today that seems to be part of the deal. It's easier to travel, people are better off generally. Because it was the first track and field medal of the Games, so we set England off on. So the team manager put in a call to UK, which we had to be careful timing it, because the walk finished at say 9 o'clock. We started at 6, so it would be all over by 9 their time. But of course they were 8 hours in front of us, so it was late on. And we had to wait till the evening of the following day before we got our medals, because the stadium was empty in the morning. David Emery was next door but one to us, lovely fella. In the early days of his hurdling career. He was doing the short hurdles then, I think. We saw the great Ron Clark, fabulous runner. Nobody ever beat Ron Clark in a slow time. Kip Kino beat him in the 3 miles. Neftali Temu beat him in the 10,000 metres. So there was some great athletics.
I suppose getting the event over and done with, you was able to enjoy the
Well,
athletes.
that's right, yeah, but you still got to be respectful of the other competitors, still got to think. I mean, the management were very good. I'd asked, they phoned me on the night before the race. I said I wanted to be up about 3:30 in the morning because I needed to be awake a couple of hours before I started racing. So they found me a conditioned bungalow. I was on my own.
What did Ray do then?
I don't know, I can't remember. I slept there, but I didn't get much sleep because my body wasn't used to being in bed at 9 o'clock. The other reason was that there was still lots of life going on the campus. And I knew after that then really it didn't matter how much sleep you got the night before a big race. It helped if you got a good night's sleep, but if you didn't, if you were tuned up and trained up, you perform.
Ron, what's your 3 most favourite races? Or what were the 3 most favourite races?
One has got to be the National 10 because of the birth of our first daughter the night before.
Yeah.
The second would be winning the Bradford in '71 after a torrid battle with John Walrus. And the third favourite, so many. I think Kingston would have to be.
Right, okay, I was wondering if you might bring that in. Yeah.
I mean, the thing about the Bradford was you always got roadside support. You know, and as I say, the National 10, fortunately, was in Bolton. Linda was born at 11:25 the night before. I don't think anything would have stopped me winning that day.
Yeah, fantastic, yeah.
Next thing I want to talk about is your 100 miles. Because you had that break, as you've said before, mainstream race walking, put it that way, but getting yourself established here in Malton. You raced with a friend.
Yes,
so how did that all come about?
It all came about because the charity I worked for had a change of chairman. It was the Honourable David Seif, who was later knighted. He became head of the Racing Welfare Charity. And he came round to see various members on that worked for the charity. And really nice guy, and said to me, I believe you were an athlete. I said, yeah. He said, did you achieve everything you wanted to achieve? I said, well, not really. I said, I didn't make the Olympics, and I didn't gain Centurion status. I said, the Olympics have passed me by now, that's gone. I said, but if I got the incentive, become Centurion. About a week, 10 days later, I got this message from him, and he said, if you prepared to have a go at becoming a Centurion, we could make a lot of money for the charity.
Oh, right.
So I said, well, as long as the trust will pay for me out of a health check before. So they did, and I did, and I entered. And my mate Ian in the village, Ian Garmston, he'd run our village novice walk several years before, and we'd done some race walking locally. So he said, well, I'll do it with you. And that was how it started. We tied it in with the anniversary, with the centenary of the charity I worked for. The 100-mile walk started the centenary year. We had the local swimming pool during the year overnight, non-stop relay of stable staff, swam 100 miles.
Oh, right.
And then we got permission from the race course before racing on the July course. At the July meeting, we'd have 100 people run down the rolling mile. And then for those that weren't active, we got over 100 members to all give a pint of blood when the blood transfusion came in. So it was 100 theme for the year. But anyway,
so you got the short straw?
Well, no, I didn't because a stable lad, Gary Humphries, got the short straw because the last event was riding 100 miles.
Oh, right.
So his buttocks knew
Yeah.
that's how it finished. That was a tremendous operation because they had to be changing horses
Yeah.
because the horses couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
So we got trainers who would loan us a horse for so long. We had to have a team of lads to transport the horses, rub them down and everything when they finished. So that was, and that involved lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
But going back to the 100, it was a memorable year, and
So where was the 100 held?
it was held at Hungerton on a 5.5 mile circuit, which was far from easy, if I put it that way.
Right.
In fact, it was bloody hilly. Yeah, we completed it, but I went to the start line and there was 38,000 quid on me completed it.
Oh, right.
So there's no question of not doing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And again, that was made up from some pretty big spenders because of the connections in racing.
Yeah, well, that's where the money is, isn't it?
I had 2 or 3 people
Mm.
back me for £1,000
Wow.
to do it. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
and but again, one of the memorable things about that was not so much the race itself, although that has lots of memories. Was the build up to it. We did a token effort on the 1st of January 1992. It was a drizzly day and we walked, and then we started, that was our first training session. We watched the trees come into leaf, we watched the ploughed fields turn into harvest.
Mm.
We saw the arrival of summer visitors, swallows and martins and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was that whole 7 months training and approach to that sticks in my mind.
What would have been your longest training session in preparation for it?
We used to go out after work on a Friday. We would go out and walk 4 hours till midnight.
Right, okay.
4 hours, depending what time we got off. 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then 7 o'clock the next morning, we'd be on the road again,
Oh,
and we'd walk all day.
Oh, right, so,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just walking, not
yeah.
time
Yeah.
with time on your feet.
Yeah.
We'd walk all day. Well, I mean, we built up to that. We started off walking all day, and then adding bits on here and there, and then we practiced walking in the night. So over a weekend, you could get 100 miles in easy by just doing it in stages.
Oh, wow,
and
okay,
breathing.
yeah.
So that's the way we got the mileage in. Joan would often run us out to somewhere. One of the early ones was she ran us out to Saffron Walden.
Oh, okay.
And
That's a fair lick, isn't it?
and then we walked back.
Yeah.
We walked back through the country lanes, and so it was interesting from that point of view.
Mm.
And then later on, we did that. Ian and I did that together, and then he picked up a bit of a knee injury. So on one of the longer ones, Joan dropped me off at Colchester, and I walked back from Colchester again to all the lanes. So I was happy being able to do the distance.
Yeah. It's always different from training than the actual event, and it is a race after all. Did you find that the racing brain became active again?
I'm not sure it did. I was conscious that I had 38 grand on me. So the main thing was to qualify. I say it wasn't an easy course. With a good backup team. People came out of the woodwork to look after Ian and myself on the road. And one of the people, again, as an aside, one of the people, a lad called Gary Humphries, who was a stable lad. He was a pretty good stable lad's boxer. When we mapped out what the centenary year would be, starting with this war, and Gary said, well, I'll be there, I'll be, I want to be part of the team.
Yeah.
Anyway, between that being decided, he finished up in a punch up in the club. Well, that's automatic. That's automatic barred out. So even though he was barred out, he still turned up at Hungerton and did the business.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
It certainly, I mean, my more modest achievement, there's nothing like having a team of people just looking after you and helping you
They
through.
were very critical because Ian is a gentleman, and every time we came round at the end of a lap, they'd say, or I would shout out, right pudding, whatever it was I wanted, and then they'd run and get it and chase me up the road to give it me. But when Ian came, he always used to say, "Oh, would you mind giving me?" So we're different characters.
So did you walk together then?
For part of the way, but in the end I think I finished best price when I was in front of Ian.
You did 22 hours.
22:26 something.
22:20. So what did he do then? Can you remember?
I think
It was within the 24 hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean we're both clever. I was 8:93 and Ian was. I've got it somewhere.
Yeah. All right.
So that was the long. The previous longest race before that was the TT walk, 37.75 miles on the TT course in '64. After not making the team, I went over there. I think it was the first time anybody had beaten 6 hours.
Miles, my friend and me. Miles walked in the day, miles covered at night, some easy, some hard, some short and some long, straight miles, winding miles, some flat and hilly ones. Sudbury to home in just over 6 hours, along hedge road lanes and verges bedecked with spring flowers, with both race walking and marching styles, making for quick as well as slow miles. We saw trees don their leaves, heard birds come into song, fields changed their colour as the months passed along, and we tramped 3 counties as the distance increased, where quaint village pubs provided drinks and relief. Misty, cold and damp miles, sunny, hot and sweaty miles, miserable, boring, difficult miles, but more often happy, chatting, smiling miles. Why all these miles of varying kinds? To attain a goal we'd set in our minds, to walk 100 of them in a day, and if we could, we'd qualify for the Centurion Brotherhood. Strains, aches, pulls and your injury too didn't prevent us from seeing it through. Yes, we beat the challenge, and with time to spare, and oh, the joy of being able to share it with our loved ones and close friends who would be closer still by the race's end. If friendships can flourish in just a single day, it's impossible to measure how much ours did along the way, over the days, weeks, months and of course all those bloody miles.
You was one of the supporters to recreate the Captain Barclay 1,000 miles in 1,000 hours recreation.
I'm very proud of that. I instigated that,
Yeah, instigated it.
I was very fortunate. I had the backing of the racing industry. Richard Dunwoody.
Yes, famous jockey.
Famous jump jockey. And it's quite a mammoth task because the challenge was to go on foot, walk 1,000 miles in 1,000 hours for 1,000 guineas, which meant that you couldn't go off and walk for an hour, get 3 or 4 miles in and then have a few hours off. You had to walk a mile in every hour. And 1,000 hours is 42 days.
Amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
So for every hour for 42 days.
Yeah.
So by walking the last, again making sure you're inside the time limit, or if you walk the last mile in the last 20 minutes of an hour, waiting for the clock to chime and tick over to the next hour, and get your next mile in, you can have a maximum of about 40 minutes off in 6 weeks.
How do you sleep? How do
Well,
you
we had a
eat?
team. Amos Seddon, great walker in his own right. Amos, with his police background, I made him chief of the support team. Every mile was timed. John May was in the team.
Oh yeah.
Peter Markham was in the team.
Yeah.
All
stalwarts of the sport, of course.
Yeah, and all sort of representing Racewalk Association. Yeah, in the end there were people coming to walk with him.
How did he cope with it?
He coped pretty well. Bear in mind, this was not a piece of cake, but he had walked across Antarctica.
A bit warmer though.
A couple of years before.
Yeah.
So he was up for these kind of
Yeah,
challenges.
yeah. I mean,
Endurance is a funny sort of mental condition as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, certainly, I mean, on the Antarctic walk, he would have been deprived of sleep as well.
Yeah.
Yes, but even so, it's an incredible thing. And we should state also about Captain Barclay. He would be in the history of race walking, wouldn't he?
Well, he is, yes, I think. But round about Barclay's time,
What era was that then?
Barclay, the event we put on at Newmarket in 2011 was the bicentenary.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And of
But
course the history of Captain Barclay, he was probably one of the most famous
there
exponents.
There were lots of them.
There's lots of those
Yeah.
sort of things going on where...
There's crazy wages,
yeah.
like 1,500 hours and a mile and 1,500
yeah, and it was usually, you know, Lord so-and-so would get his servant...
His footman.
footman against so-and-so, Lord
Oh,
so-and-so,
my man. Yeah.
and the poor footman literally was out on his feet.
Well, Barclay was sort of landed gentry.
yeah. So probably that's why he got more publicity
and
for it.
within days of finishing his walk, so he joined his regiment and back to work. But you know, the officers in those days led a charmed life compared to the others. But that's one link Newmarket has with walking. Another is, I forget the guy's name now, the first guy to walk 20 miles in 3 hours, and that was done on Newmarket Heath in the 1850s. Barclay was 1809, this guy was 1850s, and then a guy, Sir John Astley, who was responsible for setting up the charity that I work for.
Oh, yes.
What a link, eh?
He was famous for taking on wages himself, running, walking, whatever, but more famous for actually promoting 6-day walks. And of course in those days it was a championship belt if you won it, not a medal. And I didn't find out about John Astley until I started working at the Astley Trust and hadn't realised there was that connection.
It's funny, so it's a big circle. It ended up with you
Some
picking
of
up.
the people that joined Richard on it, I mean there were townspeople would join in. The lady off Foyles War, she came and walked with him during the night. On one night, Sheikh Mohammed
Did he?
turned out to walk with him.
Yeah. Wow.
He got invited. There was one day he got invited up to Michael Stout's on one of his rest periods. Michael Stout's yard was just up the road from our base, which was the Bedford Lodge. And all credit to Bedford Lodge because they were brilliant in supporting us. Richard had a room of his own, and the staff, whoever was on duty from the support team, we were housed and fed at Bedford Lodge. So without them it couldn't have happened really. Anyway, so he was invited up to Michael Stout's, so he went up there and the Queen was there. So, because
Mum or John?
So with everybody, Dean Richards, the rugby player who fell into disgrace for some of his actions, McCoy the jockey, he did a few laps, a few legs with him. 14 was Amos was in charge. Eric Hall, Olympian, two-time Olympian. Glyn Jones.
Yeah.
They were the main team, but people like say Peter Markham, Mal Blythe and others, they came and did their bits. Funnily enough, another little aside is that on the last day, it was all arranged so that the final mile was finished down the racecourse at the July racecourse at the July meeting. So we had a hell of a rush to get from the Bedford Lodge after the 999th mile. They had a hell of a rush in the car over the heath to do the last mile when they finished up down the mile. And so we measured a mile from the start, and it was decided that it would be great if legend Lester Piggott walked in with him. It was a publicity thing. So, well, Lester didn't want to walk a mile, so he was going to join in. He was going to join in when we got to the last half mile, when we actually came out onto the, the track.
Yeah.
And we've got a picture somewhere. Eric had spent a lot of his life in the civil servant as in customs and excise, which is tax. So he was walking side by side with Lester. So we got the tax man and the guy who'd done time for the day.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
We're just by an interesting array of, some might just call it paraphernalia, but they're very much part of your history. And what always attracts me when I come in is your display of the medals or notable medals that you won during your career. Can you just run through?
The top 4 are junior championship medals. The second row is RWA championship medals. These are also championship medals. These larger ones here are inter-counties championships. Those down there are all Lancashire championships. And these down this side are all Northern championships. These are Fowler-Dixon Style Award medals. Then the Commonwealth, British Empire and Commonwealth Games gold medal, the only one for walking in existence. That's a photograph of trophies I had as a junior when I first started out. This is a commemorative medal from the 1971 European Games in Helsinki, and that one is the commemorative medal from the European Games in Budapest in '66.
Quite an array. Yeah, so...
And the frame was made by my father-in-law.
Yeah, that's great. It's it's really good to see. And these notable vests here.
GB 66.
Why that one and not your 63?
Because I can't find my 63.
There speaks an honest man. Yeah.
And then the Commonwealth Games, that's Commonwealth Games 1970.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know where my 66 one is. I think my 66 one's disintegrating. This is interesting because not many walkers get a 3A's vest. But at the time we got that, Paul and I we got picked for the 3A's against Oxford University, who had an Australia walker there called Peter McCullough, who had a very successful couple of seasons over here. So that's the 3A's vest, and that's my county vest, Lancashire County.
Lancashire, yeah. Here we go, Ron. You were telling me about your badge, your England badge from the 66 Games,
yeah.
And all these other ones are various commemorative.
That's one of Commonwealth, USA versus Commonwealth.
Okay.
That's obviously that's Lugano.
Yeah, Lugano, yeah.
That's the Lancashire Junior Discus Championship.
Oh, yeah.
That's the badge I had when I did the Nijmegen marches with the RWA.
Yeah.
That's the 3A's junior badge, a bit moth-eaten now. These are that's Scottish Commonwealth. These are Kingston Commonwealth, Helsinki.
Yeah.
And various pin badges I exchanged with different walkers. That was a tremendous Lugano Cup final.
1970.
Yeah.
Eschborn. Oh, right, of course, yeah.
Well, there were 2 Eschborn, that was the first one.
Yeah.
And this one is the Northern Area RWA's 60th anniversary.
Okay, Ron, you've got two others to show me here. So on my left, which is a smaller one.
Yeah. First time I did 8 in the hour. I was second to Mal Tolley in the Northern Championship at Leeds. And this is the plaque that I got when I broke the 2-hour record.
Yeah.
That was in 71.
Well, I think I'm going to close there, Ron.
Yeah.
I think we've done a lot of talking, both to camera and actually a lot off camera.
Yeah.
Having a few laughs along the way.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say I'm very grateful for the time that Ron's spent just sharing with us. Some great memories for him and great bits of history for a lot of us here. Fortunately, I knew Ron in my career as a race walker. Ron was always like there, and I was just an ordinary club man, but great respect for Ron. Great that all these years later that we can share about some common memories, and Ron has shared about his development of his career early years is really fascinating for me. Got me back looking into the old race walking record archive, reliving the great journalism skills of Colin Young, who was the walking correspondent for Athletics Weekly, but also a great walker in his own right, particularly the ultra distances, yeah. And just shining a light on some of the greats that I only knew by name. I did get to know Paul Nihale a bit, but all those other greats, which I remember seeing Don Thompson winning the Rome 50k walk, black and white TV, and Ken Matthews 4 years later as 20k at Tokyo. They were landmarks for me in my own sporting life. Race walking didn't mean anything to me in those days, but I do remember those particular occasions. So again, Ron, and thanks for the kind hospitality. Love to Joan, she's around somewhere. And your dog, Zach.
Yeah. Well, thank you. My eagles had a wonderful morning.
Well, it's great. I can see you retelling some of these stories, Ron. You're beaming with the memory.
Yeah.
And it's good to share. So we're going to wrap it up there. So thank you for joining this episode of Race Walking Extra. I hope it makes sense when it finally appears on YouTube, and give it a like, I think, and who knows, I might be able to do some more of this a bit later on. Okay, so bye everybody.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Cheers. Well done, Ron.
Thank you. Hi there, nice to be with you. I'm glad you can stick around to listen to the memoirs of a has-been. But as they say, better to be a has-been than there never was.
That's it. Great. Thanks, Ron. Excellent. Race Walking Extra. I'm here at the home of Ron and Joan Wallworks. Sorry, I'm here at the home of Joan and Ron Wallwork, and in the main we are celebrating the fact. Sorry, let's do that bit again. Yeah. Ron has asked me to document in the main the 70th anniversary, no, 60th. Let's start again, yeah. Welcome to Race Walking Extra. I'm really pleased to be. I'm really pleased to be with Ron Wallwork in Ron and Joan's house in Malton, near Newmarket. I'll do this.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. That's right. Word of experience. I bet they said that to you when you met the Queen. Take a deep breath and say, "Mom."
Yes, it's Mom, not Jan.
Not what?
What was the Lord, what did the referee, when it was instruction? She's known as Ma'am,
Yeah.
not Mom.
Oh, right.
Ma'am as in jam, he said. Yeah.
So did you say, "Pleased to meet you, Jan"? I mean, Ma'am.